Bering Land Bridge. The world's most recent glacial period began about 110,000 years ago and ended around 12,500 years ago. The maximum extent of this glacial period, which occurred around 20,000 years ago, was called the last glacial maximum, LGM. Although the Pleistocene epoch experienced many cycles of glacials and interglacials, the warmer periods between the colder glacial climates, this last glacial period is the most heavily studied and best known portion of the world's current ice age, especially with regard to North America and Northern Europe. During the last glaciation, the temperatures turned cold enough to freeze much of the Earth's water into ice, a prolonged cold stage with increased precipitation, mostly snow in this case, that caused large ice sheets to form. At the time of the LGM, approximately 26 million square kilometers, 10 million square miles, of the Earth was covered by ice. As the Earth's water and precipitation became frozen in large continental ice sheets and glaciers, worldwide sea levels dropped as the last glacial period progressed leading up to the LGM. Sea levels went down about 50 meters, 164 feet, in 1,000 years. These levels then stayed relatively constant until the ice sheets began to melt toward the end of the glacial period. As sea levels went 200 meters, 656 feet, lower than that in present day, larger expanses of previously submerged continental shelf became dry land. Bering Land Bridge, a large region around the present-day Bering Strait, emerged to connect together the northeastern tip of Asia and the western tip of modern Alaska. At its greatest extent, this land bridge was about 1,600 kilometers, 1,000 miles, from north to south. The term Beringia is another name used to describe the Bering Land Bridge, referring to the large expanse of tundra in the region. It was coined in the mid-20th century by Erik Hultén, a Swedish botanist who was studying plants in Alaska and northeastern Siberia. At the time of his study, he began using the word Beringia as a geographic description for the area. During the time of the Bering Land Bridge, the area between Siberia and Alaska was not glaciated, like the surrounding continents, because snowfall was very light in the region. This is because the wind blowing into the area from the Pacific Ocean lost its moisture before reaching Beringia, as it was forced to rise over the Alaska Range in central Alaska. However, because of its very high latitude, the region would have had a similar cold and harsh climate as what is currently present in northwestern Alaska and eastern Siberia. Beringia, therefore, was assumed to be a flat, cold, and dry landscape. But because the Bering Land Bridge was not glaciated and precipitation was light, it was able to serve as an ecological refugium for flora and fauna. Much of what is known about the Bering Land Bridge today, aside from its physical presence, comes from biogeographical data showing connections between species on the Asian and North American continents. For example, there is evidence that saber-toothed cats, woolly mammoths, various ungulates, and plants were on both continents around the last ice age, and there would have been little way for them to appear on both without the presence of a land bridge. The grasslands would have been most common on the Bering Land Bridge itself, and for hundreds of miles into the Asian and North American continent. It is believed that there were very few trees, and all vegetation consisted of grasses and low-lying plants and shrubs. Today, the region surrounding what remains of Beringia in northwestern Alaska and eastern Siberia still features grasslands with very few trees. Apart from the presence of flora and fauna during the overall glacial period, the other important thing about the Bering Land Bridge is that it enabled humans to cross the Bering Sea and enter North America during the last ice age about 12,000 years ago. It is believed that these early settlers were following migrating mammals across the Bering Land Bridge, and for a time may have settled on the bridge itself. As the Bering Land Bridge began to flood once again with the end of the Ice Age, however, humans and the animals moved south along coastal North America.